This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very good afternoon, boys and girls of John C. Mayers Elementary School, Main Street School, and Glenwood Elementary School, and welcome to the afternoon safari drive all the way from the Mara Triangle in Kenya. We're very excited to have you on board again. You've been with us before, and I'm so happy that you have joined us one more time. One important thing, remember to ask us as many questions as you can. If you have any comments, please also send your comments through. Keep talking to us through your teachers, and I'm sure your teachers know how to talk to us. Well, we have a lovely afternoon, and we are starting with some 2 buffaloes there. If you all know the water buffaloes back home, these ones are called African Cape buffaloes. How does that sound? And because it's a bit warm, that's why they're just staying there. And at the moment, they're not eating anything. And we're talking of temperatures of 29 degrees Celsius, or what I'm sure you are used to, which is 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the temperature that we have here in the Mara Triangle in Kenya. Now, that is a very big bull, and see, boys and girls, how like you are a giraffe, just walking behind them. Look at the heights of those 2 animals. The giraffe is the tallest animal in the whole world. Aren't you lucky to see 2 species of animals in one shot or in one screen? How beautiful is this? Now, the giraffe walks away because it might be going or heading to that tree to start eating maybe some leaves. Both these 2 animals have one commonality. They are both herbivores. Herbivores, I'm saying, or I mean, they are both vegetarian. What does that mean? They eat green matter. So the giraffe that is walking there and these 2 buffaloes eat green matter, and both of them are herbivores. Now, if you look at them carefully, the 2 buffaloes here, they got very big horns. So meaning that these ones are boys or males. Really a good question. And buffaloes, the fully grown one could be about 700 kilograms or about 1,500 pounds. Those are the big males. And the females could be anything 500 or about 1,000, 1,100 or so pounds in weight. But they're very heavy animals. And in general, Julia, as you said, you wanted to know how the buffaloes weigh or how much they weigh. In general, here in the African wilderness, males are always a bit heavier than females. Look at how majestic he is as he's walking toward us. Look at him carefully and notice he got a lot of mud on his back. They will always wallow or roll in the mud when it's wet, and then the mud will stay on top of their skins, just number 1, to keep cool. But if there'll be any insects on their skin, on their body, it kills them. Like say you'd want to know where buffaloes get water. And here in the wilderness, Bungei is going to show you some forest way back behind these buffaloes. Did you see that forest, boys and girls, Leki? And you see other antelopes there? There's a stream there. So every patch, every few kilometers or miles from where we are, will either have a stream or a well or even a river. And that's where the buffaloes, Leki, get the water. And also those antelopes you see in the background there, that's also where they get the water. This is the 3rd species, boys and girls, I'm showing you. And this one here, these antelopes are called Topi. T-O-P-I. And boys and girls, if you look at them carefully, the ones in the middle are of different color to the ones on the edge. Because the ones in the middle are like you, boys and girls. They're youngsters, very young ones. When they get older, they'll start getting the colors of their parents. But at the moment, they look a bit light in color and not having those 2 different colors like brown and black on the adults. I don't know what they're looking at, but every time you see antelopes looking like that, either there's something they are seeing that they don't like, And maybe it is something me and Bungei might like. Maybe a lion, because they look apprehensive. When they look like they're worried of something, in general, it's always maybe a cat, but also sometimes it could even be a hyena. It could be anything that worries them. Another giraffe is coming in the frame. You boys and girls, this is your luckiest day. Remember, I requested you for one thing. Keep sending questions. Keep sending comments. A comment is like saying, wow, that giraffe is very tall. Kaylee, very good. You just got those words out of my mouth. Giraffes are tall because, in general, giraffes tend to eat the trees. And trees that are tall have their leaves and twigs at the very top. And for that reason, giraffes are tall and have the long necks so that they can reach the leaves and the twigs from the tall trees. Buffaloes are not as tall, or the antelopes that you saw earlier, because they'll tend to feed on the grass. And the grass, they just need to bend their heads and feed on the grass. But because giraffes are what we call browsers, browsers mean they only eat leaves and twigs and not grass. And of course, we all know most of the leaves and the twigs are on top of the trees, which are high. That's why the giraffes have the long necks. Buffaloes and other antelopes will always eat the grass, which is on the ground, and they just need to bend their heads to reach the grass. Hello, giraffe. What are you thinking, giraffe? Oh, the boys and the girls are so excited to see you. Look at her, just looking at us. So, boys and girls, I want to give you a small homework. Between now and the time we finish the show, look at that neck of the giraffe, because Bungei will take you back to that neck of the giraffe, or he might see another giraffe. Look at that neck of the giraffe. Do you see how long it is? I'm not sure whether you remember the last time you joined us. Someone asked you, how tall is the giraffe neck? Now, on the giraffe neck, there are some bones that we call vertebrae bones. I want to give me an idea how many bones the giraffe has, because all of us human beings, we got 7. Now, boys and girls, I want to take you to so many miles, to a country called South Africa, to another friend of mine called Brent, who want to smile at all of you.
Well, hello, and welcome to our wet, windy, stormy Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I have the Batman on camera with me, and of course my name is Brent Leo Smith, and you're on a very wet, live African safari. Remember, hashtag SafariLive if you want to send me any questions on Twitter, or you can just pop them on the YouTube feed. Now, as I said, it's wet. We're in dire need of rain. This area's had about 168 mils for this whole year, so that is a problem. Normally we have about 350 millimeters of rain a year, and last year we had a sum total of about 168 millimeters, so just over half of what the rain we normally get. So we're hoping that this will be lots of rain, and I'm just hoping I don't get too wet while I'm driving around. So it'll be very nice to have your questions, get them to your teacher. I'm waiting with bated breath. In the meantime, I've got a question for all you guys back at home. What is the biggest mammal in the world? Tell your teacher. See which school's going to get it right first. But there is an animal who doesn't look too impressed with the weather. It is an impala. You got it in there, Krogo? Got her there. It is a very damp looking impala. And you can see she's actually standing with her back to where the wind and the rain are coming from, behind a small leafy bush called a weeping wattle. So, trying to get a little bit of protection from the weather. Now, antelope species like impala really don't like this weather. The main reason is because of all the wind and the noise and the rain. The kitty cats, the lions and the leopards are able to sneak up on them, and they can move. No, I'm not a leopard, don't worry. And you can see her ears are alert, and she's listening carefully to check if there's any predators about. Off she canters. So they can be quite nervous in this windy, wet weather. Hello, Henry. Henry would like to know how we don't scare away the animals when we get so close to them. Well, Henry, fortunately, we are in a safari vehicle. And a safari vehicle has been around for just over 100 years. So the animals don't have an instinctive response to the safari vehicle. So if you were walking, they would run away as soon as they saw you normally. But in a safari vehicle, they don't really know what it is. It doesn't smell like anything dangerous. It smells like fuel and oil and clutch fluid and all other manner of mechanical fluids. And it doesn't behave like an animal. So if you drive carefully and considerately, you can get very close to animals while you're in a safari vehicle. You probably find if you drive down here in a white truck, they might get a bit of a fright. Glenwood Elementary, I'm very disappointed in you. I asked you what was the largest mammal in the world, and you said it was an elephant. An elephant is the largest land mammal in the world, but it is not even close to the largest mammal in the world. You see, you've got to be careful of me. I'm full of trickery. Now, I'm looking for a leopard at the moment. His name is Hosanna. He's a young male leopard. He was last seen a couple of days ago in this area, but I'm hoping with this cool, wet weather, he might be up and on the move and sneaking up on some of those impala. Okay, well, I carry on looking for a leopard. Let's send you across to Jamie, who's found a reptilian leopard.
And the reason that Brent says that this is a reptilian tortoise, no, a reptilian leopard, is because it is a leopard tortoise. A very good afternoon. Time to go. Right, a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Jamie and I'm going home. It's lovely to have the kids on board with us. Now remember that you might have seen some miserable wet looking impala, but there are lots of animals that are happy to see the rain, and the tortoise is one of them. Now tortoises spend the whole of our dry season, which is around the middle of the year. So around about June, when you have your summertime, that's our winter time, and that's when it's very, very dry. Now they spend that entire time asleep. Now the reason that I'm racing back away from the lightning is because lightning can be very dangerous out here. South Africa gets very, very serious storms, and there's a forked lightning, or lightning that's coming up from the ground towards the sky, and it can actually be very dangerous. Now we're taught from very small that we don't take chances with lightning. Now up until now I was happy because the lightning was quite far away. I was counting the distance between the lightning strikes and the thunder, because light travels that much faster than sound, so you can actually calculate how close the lightning is to you. Now we had about 10 seconds up until recently. Lou, we really need to power down. We really do. It's on top of us. Alrighty. Sorry everyone, we're gonna say goodbye to you for now. We'll be back up and running very shortly, but I've got to race home because it's safer back at home. So while we do that, let's send you across to Dave in the Mara.
Well, boys and girls, I think things are not very good there, because sometimes in Africa when we get rains, the rains get very big and we get very heavy storms. But that is the downside of what's happening in Juma in South Africa. But the good news in Kenya, boys and girls, I've been able to get for you some lions. How exciting is this? Now, if you look at them, both of them seems to be panting. And they're panting because it's hot. You remember we said the temperatures are a bit high here. As much as we don't have any rains, we're talking of 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And what would happen, many cats get very warm and they get very hot. And that you see them breathing or panting like that, which is very typical of all cats. Or when you see dogs in your home, when it's like on a hot day during summer, that's how even the dogs will pant. Now the lions or the lionesses are more closely related to the cats, and what they have done, They're taking the shade of the termite mound. Sorry, Lou, bring that question again. Seagull, how are you? And I'm very happy with your question. What's the purpose of lions to roar? Now, there are a few reasons why lions will roar. Number one is when they communicate, because roaring helps them to communicate with each other. That's number one. Number two, Seagull, another reason why lions will roar is when they're trying to say, this is my area. And more so, the males. The males, I'm talking about the boys, which have a big mane on the neck. Hopefully we are going to see a boy today. And when they roar, they go to something like well, that's not a lion, that's David. But when they roar, that's exactly what they do. And when they do that, they want to establish their territories or letting other boys know this is our home or this is our area. Now, as I said, because it's a bit hot, now these lions are laying flat there and next to the shade of that termite mound. Look on their bellies. Their bellies are bulging because a friend of mine told me they had food in the morning. Jake, you'd like to know for how long the lions live, and is anything between 12 to 15 years. And the boys will live for about 12, sometimes 13 years, 14. And the girls live a little bit more, 15 years and 16 years, a little bit more than the boys. What I want to do is just to move forward a little bit and see whether we can get a different angle of this lion. Just hold on 1 minute. Boys and girls, don't go anywhere. I want to get you a little closer, and you can see there. And I want to show you their bellies. How is that, Bungay? Oh, keep going. Okay. Now, boys and girls, I brought you here a little bit closer because I want you to look at the bellies of these lions and just see how big they are. It's simply because my friend told me they had some food from this morning. Look at those bellies. And just see how they're panting. Those bellies are bulging and they look so big because they just finished eating this afternoon. And in general, once lions eat, what they will do is just to sleep. Sorry, Lou. We have issues with comms. What about Stefan? Stefan, thank you for your question, and you're asking, do we ever feed the animals? Stefan, unlike a zoo, here where we are in the Mara Triangle Game Reserve in Kenya, is completely wild, it's completely natural, Stefan. And these animals here will always have to feed for themselves. Be they lions, be they cheetahs, be they leopards, they'll always feed for themselves. And you're also talking about other animals like the giraffes we saw before, the buffaloes we saw before, and the antelopes we saw before. All of them will always feed for themselves. See, Bungay have also discovered something new. And from a distance, not very far from where we are with the lions, we have seen some elephants. How exciting it is, boys and girls. So that's a young calf, and I guess the one behind was the mother of this baby elephant. This is very interesting, eh? Now, boys and girls, there are some animals in Africa that we call the big five. And the big fives are leopards, rhinos, lions, elephants, and buffaloes. So I just want to give you the good news of the big five. You have already seen the big three. And also those tourists you see to the left of those elephants are also enjoying the same sighting of elephants just like us. So these lions are that are lying down here, these two girls, are part of the big five. And you can see they're staying under that termite mound. Jack, a good question, and you'd like to know who hunts. Now, when you see a group of lions together, for example, females and the young ones, we call that a pride of lions. If you see the males together, you call that a coalition. Now, when the males are on their own and the females are not anywhere close, they'll always have to hunt for their food. But in general, the females are the ones that hunt for the food. And when the females hunt, the boys will come and join them to have the party. But unfortunately, the boys are a bit selfish in the sense that when they hunt, they rarely allow the females to join them until they have eaten enough. Imagine. Now, on top of those two trees, we got some birds, and I think those are two eagles. Now we have finished seeing the lions, the buffaloes, the tortoises, the giraffes, and I thought let us do something different, and also we show you some birds. And they're not very far from these lions, neither are they very far from the elephants. Now here in the African wilderness, the animals coexist very peacefully, be they lions, be they cheetahs, be they leopards or buffaloes, and more so for the herbivores. You remember, boys and girls, I was talking about the herbivores earlier because there's a lot to eat. Faith, you're saying, why are there any bugs on the lions? Now, I'll tell you something. These lions before were having a meal, and I'm not sure what they were eating, but I guess maybe they could have been eating some gazelle or some zebra or something. When they eat, you see they have a lot of fur. Can you see that, Faith? They got a lot of fur or on the whiskers there, and they dip their faces in the meat that they are eating, and by so doing, they pick so much blood on their fur or on the face. Now, these flies will come to help clean the same blood from these animals. That's exactly what happens. So these flies are just sucking or trying to clean these lions. Hello. Look at that one girl. She has woken up and she's just looking. But you can tell, either way, both of them are still panting. You can look at the tongue of the lioness. Emily, that's a very good question. Are the lions okay with all the noise from the vehicles and the cars around? Now, these lions get habituated or get used to seeing us in these big cars. And what we do, Emily, when you get very close to the lions, we don't talk very loudly. And we also don't keep moving our bodies, standing up, sitting down, swing around the car. If you see Emily, I'm sitting very still where I am, and I talk a bit softly. So we do not bother them. I'll just show you, Emily, how I'm sitting, and you tell me whether I'm sitting nicely. Bungay, Emily want to see how I'm sitting. Emily, I know the boys and girls, you see, that's how I sit. But when I talk, I don't keep throwing my hands, I don't keep shouting very much, I don't stand up, I'll always keep quiet. Bungay also does the same. And by so doing, these lions or other animals get used to us and they tend to respect us, and we also respect them the same way. But if you get some people coming here shouting and revving the car and just, maybe hooting their car, these animals most likely will wake up and go away and will not have such great views like what we're having now. In general, when lions eat and they are full, the only thing they will do is just to sleep. And this is exactly what they're doing. Now this one is sleeping, eyes closed, and the head is still up, so I would guess she is half asleep. The one big difference between male lions and female lions, I'm sure you know, the males are a little bit bigger in size, and they got a lot of hair that we call fur, or specifically we call it mane, around their necks. You can see this one have so many flies because sometimes when they are eating, they'll always also use their paws to get their food. Jordan, how big are lions? Now, these ones are fully grown females, and Jordan, I would give them about 400 pounds in weight. Can you imagine? 400 pounds in weight, and they are a lot heavier than each one of you, I'm sure, including your teachers. Now, the boys, or what we call the males, could be even up to 500 pounds in weight. They are always very big and very heavy because they have big heads, and also they got the mass, the mane, which makes their weight to be much bigger. So you can see one of them is flat asleep, and I'm trying to imagine, boys and girls, can you tell me, if you are a lion, boys and girls, what could you be dreaming about? Now we have this one lioness that is flat asleep. What could you be dreaming about? Lily, thank you. And you're asking whether they like sleeping as much as your cat. Lily, I would also want to tell me, how old is your cat? Lily, I tell you, lions like sleeping, and I will tell you. And also remember, when you go home, tell your mom or dad or your guardian, David from Africa told you, lions like sleeping. And sometimes I'll tell you, Lily, what happens is, if they're very well fed, the lions like we have here, and have had enough to drink, they can sleep up to 20 hours. Can you imagine? 20 hours of sleep. Now, a whole day is made of 24 hours. So they are only left with 4 hours. So let's calculate. 4 hours, what do they do? Have a drink, have a stretch, maybe go to the toilet, and I'm sure you know they don't have toilets. They'll do poo out here in the bush, like where they are, and maybe walk around. So in general, males tend to sleep more than females. But if all of them are full, I will tell you, even the females or the girls would sleep the same. Oops, she just woke up. She put her head up. Maybe she had something. Now look under the neck and see how they're panting. Because of two reasons. Number one, they're just too full. They ate so much lunch. Now they're too full, and I think they're a bit uncomfortable. And then, of course, number two, it's a bit warm. Now, can you see those two teeth there? Those two teeth, we call them canines. And when lions hunt, they always hold the zebra or the wildebeest using those two teeth. If you look at them carefully, they look a bit yellow. They are not bright white like your teeth or my teeth. And what that, boys and girls, would mean or translate into is that this lioness here is a bit old. So the more yellowy the teeth get, they're a bit old. Alejandro, you're asking what are the parts at the bottom lion called? And they are called paws, P-A-W. If, of course, there are many paws. And what they do, when they are going to hunt, they'll always use them to grab the animal. Now, if this lioness is going to wake up and walk at a place or on a place where there's a bit of sand, we can always follow. There are times either in South Africa when we do a safari, but unfortunately now it's raining heavily. That's why you're not seeing my friends, you're only seeing me, or you're only hearing me. There's a lot of sand, and there's a particular area where you had Brent and Jamie before that we call the Sami sand, and Sabi sand because they have a lot of sand in that area. So if lions would walk in that area and they pass, when we are doing what we call a bushwalk, we'll come and see the places the lions passed. Look at them now, they're turning around. They're turning up. Boys and girls, you're very lucky. Look at the belly of that one. It's so full, as I told you. And sometimes on a single sitting, if the lions, say, for example, have a big meal, they can eat up to 40 pounds of food. Jane, that's a very good question. And you're asking, are lions the biggest cats in the world? No, they are not. But in Africa, they are the biggest cats. But in the whole world, tigers are the largest cats in the whole world. Tigers, and I'm sure you know, we do not have tigers in Africa. So our largest cats here are the lions, and then the lions are followed by buffaloes, leopards, my apologies, and then the leopards are followed by cheetahs. So number 1 in the world are tigers, number 2, lions, leopards, and cheetahs. So one just walked away, and I just want to turn the car a little bit and see where she is going, and maybe see her walking style. It will be something nice for you boys and girls to see. Alrighty, let me just turn around slowly and see where she is going. And because maybe she is too full, she could be going for a drink. Who knows? Or she decided maybe to lie down at a different position. Addison, that's a good question. Now, lions have a lot of commonalities. As you go back to that lion, lions have a lot of commonalities with the cats, like at home. But in general, they don't sleep with the tail like that. What they do, because they are big and bigger than the cats or than the domestic cats, they'll always either sleep on their belly or sleep on the right side. So in general, they'll not sleep like cats you have at home. It's either on their bellies or on the side. She's just cleaning herself. Now let me turn to the left a little bit and we watch this other one that is just turning around. Just 1 minute, Bungay, and we have a look on the one on the left here, because she has repositioned herself, and maybe we might be able to see the belly of this one lioness here. All right, look at her there. And now she got her eyes opened, boys and girls. Joy, that's a very good question. What times do lions have dinner? And lions will in general eat anytime they get hungry, and they have no time. Anytime they get hungry, they'll go out and eat. And now, because this one had a very heavy lunch, I doubt they would have dinner tonight. But what would happen, Joe, if an animal will come very close to where they are, as much as they are full, they are going to hunt it and they are going to eat it for dinner. But they have no specific time for eating either lunch or dinner or breakfast. It's any time they feel hungry, that's the time they hunt. It's any time an animal comes close to them, that's the time they'll hunt. How does that sound? Unlike you boys and girls, I'm sure in school or at home, you have a specific time for breakfast, specific time for lunch, and a specific time for dinner. Out in the bush, we do not follow a particular period. We do not have a timetable. We could have breakfast 10 o'clock. We could have lunch 5 o'clock in the evening. And we could have dinner maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. We don't have any particular plan that we follow. Look at the belly of this particular one. She's so full. But every time she hears a movement, she'll always wake up and turn and look. Leona, you'd like to know why they breathe so heavily when they're sleeping. It is because, one, they're very full. And as I showed you, if you look on the belly, Leona there, see how full she is. And I'm guessing maybe she could be having like 30 to 40 pounds of meat in her tummy. Can you believe you, Leona, eating 30 or 40 pounds of food in your tummy? And then number two, is still a bit warm here where we are. 85 degrees Fahrenheit is pretty warm. So a combination of having a very full belly and, being warm makes them look like they're breathing heavily, which we call panting. All right, boys and girls, I want to drive and maybe show you something different. If these lions are going to wake up, we'll come back here. But in the meantime, let's go look for something else. All right. Bungay, what do you think we're going to show the kids now? So, Bungay is my camera operator today. Emily, I'm hearing your name for the second time, and that is very exciting. And you're asking what is the most extraordinary animal that we got around this area. There are lots of them. And for me, the most extraordinary one could be an animal called an aardvark. And aardvarks, you'll only see them at night. And they look like pig and extended snout like that. Oops, sorry about the bouncing there. And to me, Emily, that's the most extraordinary animal, I would say, that we got around this area. So boys and girls, hold on, it's getting a bit bumpy. Our roads here in Africa are always rough, and as much as they're rough, we got very good cars that are four-wheel drive. And when I don't look at the potholes very well, or the boulders, Bungay, who is my camera operator, he'll always tell me David left, David right, and I'll turn according to what he's telling me. So I want to show you elephants because personally I'm celebrating here in Kenya because I don't have a single drop of rain. And there's a lot of rains in South Africa, in Juma, and all those beautiful faces you saw there, they're sheltering themselves, I think, under trees. So for me, it's a lot of good fun here because I got, Bungay, what do you prefer? We go to the big road or we go to the left? Main road. All right, because sorry, Lou, bring the question again from Henley. Sorry, Lou. One more time, sorry. All right, Henry. Very good. Henry, that's a very interesting question because out here in the wilderness, all animals are our friends. But what we do, we never get close to them, Henry. But when they see us and they do not move away from us, we always know they are our good friends. And boys and girls, as I promised you before, I'll be showing you something different. I think I have come very close to the largest animal in the world. I think either Brent or Jamie was asking you what's the largest animal in the world. Are you happy, Bungay, there? Okay, let's just see, because I got a surprise for you, boys and girls. And this surprise is interesting because I'm going to show you a mother and a baby of the largest animal we have in the world. Just 2 seconds, and Bungay will do that. And there's something very special happening because if you look carefully, that baby is suckling. It is nursing from the mother. How cute is that? I'll tell you, all of you are the luckiest kids in this world. So we've got elephant, and that's the mother. Now, if you look at her carefully, she's flapping her ears front, backwards, backwards, front. And why she's doing that is to try and cool off. Look at that baby, and Bungay, my camera operator, is doing a wonderful job just to show you how elephant babies get milk from their mamas. How exciting is this? Not every time that we see this, and even for me, I am feeling very excited. Just watch this. Every time we come to the bush, we'll always see something different. Now, in general, most of the animals here in the bush will have the mammary glands between their back feet. But for the elephant, it's between the front legs. So I want you to note that elephants are a bit different from most of the other animals. They got their mammary glands. I'm talking of where the babies nurse or they get their milk from. It's between the front legs and not the back legs. Now look at that elephant carefully, and you notice she got one tusk. In general, all elephants have 2 tusks, but sometimes they could lose one if they get very old. Just like us human beings, when we get old, we lose our teeth because the tusks of an elephant are modified teeth. So, or maybe she was born like that. Natalie, how are you? And you'd like to know how much do baby elephants weigh? Baby elephants weigh about 200 pounds when they're born. Can you imagine that? 200 pounds when they're born, or about 100 kilograms. And they get to grow, and they grow very quickly. But I'll tell you, all the baby elephants, when they're born, they're heavy than some of the adults. Can you imagine? Elephants, when they travel or when they move in groups. And we have a herd of elephants here. Or when they travel in groups, you'll say a herd of elephants. And in every group or a herd like this, there'll be one leader or one boss. And for the elephants, the leader is a female. Ella, good question. You want to know why the elephant trunks are so long. Now, elephants' trunks are very important to them because all the main feeding, all the drinking, all the breathing is handled by the trunks. You can imagine. So an elephant without a trunk cannot survive very well. Now look at them, Ella, very carefully. They are just grasping or catching grass using the trunk and then to the mouth. Can you see that? So that's very important for an elephant. That's number one. Number two, if these elephants go for a drink, at the end of that trunk, they have something like a cup or a bowl that they dip in the water, scoop the water, and take it all the way to the mouth. Can you imagine? And then number three, at the very end of that trunk, that's where the nose of an elephant is. So it's very long because if it will need to breathe or to sense something rather, or to smell something, they put the trunk up. So that's why these trunks are very long, because they are very important to them. Like the giraffes you saw before, boys and girls, and especially Ella, you remember I said they've got, or giraffes are tall, because they eat the trees that are high to reach the leaves and the twigs. Now elephants are equally lucky like the giraffes. If they want to reach the leaves like the giraffes, the long trunks they got will always come in very handy, and the trunks help them very much to reach the tall trees. Now this young one here is practicing to eat. Jasmine, thank you for your question. Why are the elephants wagging their tail? Now, there are times when we get some flies on the bodies of these elephants. Now, to wag the tail like that, they'll be trying to get rid of those flies. But also, Jasmine, as you asked why they are wagging their tails, if, for example, you have dogs at home and you notice when a dog is happy, you'll always see the dog wagging its tail left and right. Or when you're heading home and your dog is coming to meet you, they keep wagging their tails left and right. And that's in general an indication that these dogs should be happy. Now, these elephants are doing the same because I think they are happy. They got enough to eat. They got a huge space. The weather is just wonderful. If they get thirsty, they'll know where to get water. That's why they keep wagging their tails left and right. But now, when they move their ears, as I said earlier, that is just to cool off. Now, you all know cars of your mom or your dad or your guardians. If you ask them tomorrow or another day, ask them to show you where the car radiator is. And a car radiator is meant to cool the temperature of the engine. Now, elephant ears are like car radiators, and the main purpose is to cool the temperatures of these big animals. So the heart of the elephant will pump blood, the whole body, and more so to the ears. You see how big the ears are? Now, when the blood gets there, it gets cooled. Sophia, how are you? And you want to know, should a baby elephant or a baby animal get lost, what would happen or how they find their mothers? But I'll tell you, Sophia, most animals here are very clever, and they are always staying very close to their babies. And as they keep eating, they keep putting up their head to make sure the babies are not very far from them. So in that way, they do not get lost. But Should a mother notice that the baby is not very close to her, she'll stop eating or stop doing what she was doing and just go and look for the baby, and doesn't take a long time to find or relocate the baby. Now the elephants keep going, and there's a noise bird on top of that tree, and that bird is called a heron. And that bird is called a heron. How nice that we are almost finishing our safari with a heron. This is very interesting. Now I want to show you the elephants one more time before I tell you goodbye. I didn't really want to tell you goodbye, but let's go back to that baby there and have a look at it before I say to all of you, and a very big thank you for having joined us again. John C. Mayers Elementary School, the Main Street School, the Glenwood Elementary, thank you so very much for having joined us. And I'm saying bye-bye as that elephant, baby elephant, is waving bye-bye with the ears in the trunk. And to all of you, thank you, and we'll see you next time around. Goodbye from myself and Bungay. Baby elephant, they're just eating in this herd of elephants. And to all of our regular viewers, a very warm welcome to the Mara Triangle. We had just a very nice show with some school kids, and now it's time to be serious in big business. My name has not changed since we started. It remains David, and with me on the camera, hiding behind the camera, is Bungay. Bungay, good afternoon. We have done very well with the kids, with all the giraffes and the zebras, not zebras, sorry, buffaloes and the elephants and the lions. So elephants there, and Bungay is taking me back to the heron there on top of that tree, and she blends in very well. It could either be the grey heron, that's my guess, or the black-headed. Can't see very well from where I am. It's very silhouetted, but that heron on top of that tree. And it has been exciting. Well, hopefully the rains are not as heavy as they were earlier, and will take you across back to South Africa. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And we still have massive rains and storms in Juma in South Africa. And we have the best weather you'd think of right here in the Mara Triangle in Kenya. We had seen 2 lions earlier, and this youngster, not knowing he had killed his young male, and from what I can tell or can see, he's feeding on a young, must have been a zebra. Yeah, definitely it must have been a fall of a zebra. Now he's having a little break, yes, and Bungay is double confirming that. You can see the stripes of what to be used a baby zebra, and this must be like today early in the afternoon. So it's him and another youngster that brought down this fall, and you can see a little bit sign of mane coming out on his neck. And eating the heat of the day, he has to stand up, and chances are he wants to be sure there are no other predators coming around, and the only predator I would guess or think of would be hyenas. Hyenas have been known to terrorize. Was that a female there? Hyenas have been known to terrorize lions when they have a kill. I think I would have mistaken her for male. They're just trying to lift the kill up and dragging it somewhere. Maybe to get some shade, because it's still rather hot where we are. You can see the panting on the neck there. Huge belly. Fully grown lions have been known to eat for up to 20% of their body weight, and I think he is no exception. Oops. Heavy, big belly. Then I'm sure he wants to go and join the other one. I'll just also turn the car slightly, see if we can see both of them. And confirming now it's a female. It's a very fully grown female. So if we would give her about 200 kilos, so we'd imagine she has eaten maybe 40 kilos of meat. And Carl Sirkus said it's very interesting to see them like in this position. I think they're 2 females. Let me just position myself there. How is that, Bungay? Good? Okay. So let's see how they're going to behave or what they're going to do at the moment. And they're taking shade from that termite mound there. It's time to groom, which is very typical of these very social cats, the lions. Not sure they lick each other after having such a meal, because we'll always see them getting so many flies after eating a meal like this. And what would happen is they help to clean each other. And I guess that's exactly what they're doing, because they get very bloody, so much fur on their faces, because they tend to dig in the flesh. And now of that baby zebra. And like cats, how they'll also clean themselves. Here I think they social groom or they social clean each other. Clean my face, I clean yours. And that's very cool. How nice is that? And you get the blood from the other, and of course I would imagine they'll keep feeding on the same. Clean the neck, clean the cheeks, and at the same time, you know, makes the bonding much deeper. They could be 2 sisters. Lions, very social. Now, this group of lions here, or this pride, is called the Olololo, Pride of Lions, Olololo. And Olololo is an escarpment that is very close to where we live at our camp. And when they are all together, they are 14 or 16, they're 16 in number. In the Mara Triangle, we've got so many prides of lions. I would guess about 10. And this one has the largest in number. 16. And they're all females and some youngsters in them. And the youngsters are both males and females. And males being on their own, forming what you call a coalition. Now, just because of the heat of the day, they'll take advantage of that shade as they breathe out. The meat is not finished. and I'm sure at one point they'll go back. Remember, this is a very interactive safari that we do. Should you have any questions or comments, please talk to us on the YouTube chat or on Twitter using hashtag SafariLive. Clean, groom yourselves, make sure you look good. Sometimes they might try and mask that smell, you know, from would-be hyenas. It doesn't get very far. Niconico, you're asking whether these two lionesses could be sisters. It's very possible, Niconico, or they could be first cousins. What would happen? Should they, say, bring down cubs, 2 or 4, they'll normally bring 1 to 4 cubs together, and the cubs happen to be females in Niconico, they are going to remain in the pride. If they are males at a particular age, say 2.5 years of age, if the females don't show them the door, or if the males don't choose to leave the pride, the dominant males around this territory, they will come and they will show them the door. And what happens, they either have a choice of forming their own coalition as maybe 2 brothers or 2 first cousins, or they also have a choice of joining another coalition of male. So just a car that passed there, and I'm sure they won't come and join us and watch this pride of lions. There's another lioness there in the background. You got very good eyes, Bungay, today. You're seeing better than me. And definitely that is part of this pride, which we call the Olololo. So once shown the door, the young males, if they don't form their own coalition, they'll be sorry about the gremlins there. These things will happen once in a while, and it's just like the massive rains we're having in Juma. That's why you're not seeing all those beautiful faces of James or Brent or Jimmy. But at least, as I said earlier, we're having a very good weather in the Mara. I was talking about the teeth. You see, those teeth look a bit yellowy, and that, to me, would say these are very senior citizens. They are quite old females, and the yellowy they get, that always gives us an idea of, you know, saying how old they could be. Fully grown old females, 12, 13, 14 years. And sometimes, apart from being yellow in color, they get worn out. You know, they have been biting a lot of prey on hunting. They've been breaking bones, all that. Or when they do the suffocation, that happens a lot. And that could be one of the reasons why the teeth either get very yellowy or, you know, they tend to wear out very quickly. The males tend to me, lose their teeth much earlier, or they break them more than the females. The females tend to keep all their teeth much longer in their life than the males. So you see many males losing teeth or getting very yellowy. We have a coalition of males around this area that we call the Quichua males, and one of them, we call him Fang because he misses a very important canine tooth. And we all know canine tooth in lions are very important, and they do a very great job to help bring the prey down or to suffocate them. Quite a good angle, one facing one way and the other facing another. Just making sure no hyenas come around to snatch what's left of them. It was a baby zebra they brought down, so they may need to protect it up to the last pound of that meat. And for those who are joining us now, this is a pride of lions that we call the Olololo, and we're in the Mara Triangle in Kenya. And please keep talking to us. Should you have any questions or comments, using the YouTube chat, she just went down, or Twitter on hashtag SafariLive. I would say the way she was before, it was quite uncomfortable. Terry asking what pride to keep my eyes on. We'll always look at that, how she's looking at us, or at me. We'll always make sure we have a good distance between us and the lions. And not just walk up. Where do you want to go? Are you changing position? Well, what they in general will do, so long as the head is shaded very well, the rest of the body could stay in the sun. But just look at the breathing of that particular female there and see the belly and the leg. Not a very synchronized move, of movement or motion on the belly and that poo. I'm not sure to call that a pendulum, and maybe you could use it out in the wilderness to make a clock. What do you think, Bungay? Bungay doesn't think so, but it goes poop, poop, poop. I'm not sure I can see some two ticks just on the ankle of that lioness there. We'll always get ticks on the underside because the skin is pretty soft and it's easy for them just to glue themselves there. Fantastic. Well, I think the rains are still pondering and the storms are still very big in South Africa, but there's a girl who have done a clever idea and she's sneaking herself in the tent.
I don't know if it was a great idea. It was at that point the only idea. So sorry about that, everyone. If you missed the beginning of this afternoon safari, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Sebastian is on camera with me, and that was probably the best introduction that we've ever done. It basically went, my name is Jamie and I'm going home. I'm back from leave and apparently bought the most, I wouldn't call it appalling weather because we're thrilled that it's raining. Of course we are. But it was quite scary at one point. The lightning was just coming out of every single corner on Djuma, and it was really quite terrifying. I'm a little bit paranoid about lightning. I think that most of you know this. I have a thing about lightning because when I was a kid at school, a couple of girls died on a school camp, sleeping in a tent at night. Hence why, sorry Seb's got to do some windscreen wiping. He's been doing the most amazing job of trying to get his cleaning cloth out at the same time. There we go. We're doing some windscreen wiping. The rain hasn't abated. The rain has not gone anywhere. The rain has abated a little bit, but it does leave us with the tent option, which obviously we couldn't do while there was lightning. Not too far away from us, towards a place called Open Gate, which is one of the gates that is the entrance to Kruger, and that's how we get here as we go along the Open Road, actually had hailstones that people were sending photographs. They were the size of people's hands. So it really was a serious front that came through. If I could manage to get one of the screens up and running, I would actually show you what that weather system looked like as it came. I'm just going to ignore the rumblings of thunder. It's not happening. It's fine. It's all fine. Well, hopefully there was more than enough rain to start filling up just a little bit of the water holes. Now, once the lightning has abated just a little bit, it's very bright in here. Once the rain is abated just a little bit, hopefully Brent will be out as well. Since I'm here and since I'm in the tent, we're going to look at all sorts of things under the microscope. I've just put a piece of quartz under it for now, just to keep us entertained and to make sure we don't have something ugly as our background. But what we'll do is we'll see what we can find. But what I want from you, for those of you that have stuck with us this whole time while poor David has been slogging away in the Mara, is for you to suggest a topic of conversation. And you can send that through on #SafariLive on Twitter, alternatively on the YouTube chat stream. Obviously, by topic of conversation, I do not mean something, you know, sort of puerile, like whatever's happening with the Kardashians, wherever they happen to be in the world, or, I don't know, something outside of our expertise. Let's stick with the bush and the wild and perhaps what our characters have been up to. So what you can do is suggest topics of conversation, send them through on #SafariLive on Twitter. I always enjoy talking about rhino. I'm happy to talk about that. But what it really does is while we're in the tent and while I'm sort of perusing around looking for things to show you, it means that we can sort of pick up on a train of thought, and it helps with get the conversation going. Right, speaking of someone who
and repainted Rusty, they forgot to put the Velcro back on the front rain cover. And the wind is howling. I might actually have to give up fighting with that thing shortly. We're actually right on the edge of two quite big low pressure systems at the moment. So there's another one down to the south of us. I think we probably had just over 20 mils of rain, which is a good soaking. And if that other system keeps coming in from the Mozambique Channel, we could get another big storm later this evening. But it all depends on the winds. And at the moment, the wind's blowing quite heavily past us. So I'm not sure where we're going to go, but I think we're probably going to go to the west, because the west looks like that's the clearest sky on Djuma this afternoon. Okay. Yeah, so Craig and I were just down here a little bit earlier, and all of a sudden lightning hit about a couple of 100 meters from us, and we're like, okay, time to go home at speed. So it seems like most of the lightning's to the north and to the east of us now, so we're going to probably work around the south and western sectors just from a safety point of view. But hopefully for the rest of the drive the lightning will stay away, but if it doesn't, I'm going to give up. I'm giving up with this one. Thought I heard an elephant trumpet. Ivy is wondering, is this a new scarf? No, it is just one you haven't seen before. I have many kikois. Many kikois. So this is just one that I haven't used on drive before. Very, very wet at the moment. Now, as a lot of you know, that Ali and Tristan, Jamie and myself went down to the coast for our leave, and well, we had weather quite similar to this. So the fish actually won. I caught 3 fish the whole trip, which is 3 more than Tristan caught, unfortunately for Tristy. But yeah, so Tristan's still on leave for a few more days, and then the next time you'll be seeing Tristan is from the open grasslands of the Masai Mara. So Tristan's heading up for a little stint in Kenya, in the Mara. So he'll be, I think, landing up there on Saturday or Sunday. I'm not 100% sure. Now, I'm hoping little Hosanna makes an appearance this evening. I heard he hasn't been seen in a little while, so who knows, maybe we will find him out walking after the rain. And as it gets a bit darker, I'm hoping we might find some froggies. I heard a huge amount of bushveld and then from Twin Dams work our way back up towards Treehouse. See, I don't think this rain would have filled up too much, but it's always worth having a squiz. And then maybe a little bit later we'll pop into the hyena den. Hopefully it might be active and they might come and give the pups a good cleaning after getting all muddy, all the cubs. Okay, but of course, as you know, on a live safari, anything can happen at any time, and something might step out into the road at any second. Now, the reason I'm heading down towards here is that I couldn't really hear with the wind, but I thought it sounded like there were some elephants down towards Twin Dams Road. And of course, elephants can be awesome in this weather. They love this weather. They'll be lolloping about and galloping and playing. They really like a little bit of rain, and it's always fun to watch them in those conditions. And I'm sure we might see the odd tortoise now after this bit of rain getting up and awake from estivation. I think actually by the end of the safari it might be quite clear. As I said, there is another big system. Whoa, that was really big sheet lightning. But sheet lightning's okay along the top. So when it goes down, it's not so fun. Okay, well, I'm going to go see if It was indeed elephants I heard around Twin Dams in the Mawati area. In the meantime, we got to say a big thank you to Dave all the way in Kenya for holding the show with those lions.
Well, very good news to hear now the rains have subsided, and it happened. I was talking the other day saying the weather pattern in Africa the last couple of years have been quite erratic, and I'm not surprised by what's happening in South Africa. We have been able to catch up with the rest of the pride of the Olororo Pride of Lions, and this is the rest of the group. We got about 6 or 7 of them here where we are. And apart from the two females that were eating, the rest of the pride are just laying here. I would imagine either they had hunted something else before, or they did not bother to eat anything. And I've always said, it's not only the males that sleep as much as this is a young male, it's also the females that will also sleep as much, depending whether they have the same, living conditions like the males. Now, this is a youngster here, and he is, I would say, not dead asleep, because you can see him flicking his ears, but he is in a different world, maybe in some dreamland. But you can tell, looking at his belly, he's fine. He must have eaten also. There's another member of the Olororo Pride of Lions. Well, apologies again. Gremlins today, and rains today, and storms today, and lightning today. But me and Bungay, so far so good. I was talking earlier with the school kids on the show, and I was telling them about the Big Five. And before you lost me, I said we need to have a nice list of the Big Five. Of course, there's a lot to see, not only the Big Five, but the day we see the Big Five, we always say it's a great day. And for me, the two animals are leopards and the rhinos. So in South Africa, and especially in Djuma, it's always easy to spot leopards, different vegetation, and a little bit more friendly leopards, than we have here. But the Mara is good for the rhinos, and more so the black rhinos. Yesterday, or is it the day before, I think yesterday I saw a mother or one cow with her young calf from a distance, and that was an exciting sighting. And I was with Sydney, I guess, and we were trying to compete and saying we need to get the Big Five today. Well, I've left the Olororo Pride of Lions. I want to move on and look for anything else. Could see more elephants or maybe zebras. The temperatures have gone really down, and I think Jamie is still hiding in the tent because of the rains. Maybe?
I can't really think of anywhere better to hide. Well, I can, but that's definitely not an option at this point during the sunset safari. Right, too slow on the topics of conversation. I've decided one for myself, at least for the next few minutes. We're going to talk about chelonians. In this case, tortoises, because of course I started my safari with a leopard tortoise. Now, when I left to go on leave, we were actually hardly seeing any, and I'm just going to quickly grab that from Seb. Thank you kindly. And when I went on leave, it was still very dry. We'd had hardly any rain. It was cold, but we had hardly any rain. And we were hardly seeing any of these magnificent animals. Now, there's something that I find fascinating. We tend to think of them as ancient and, you know, kind of primitive in their own way. And we tend to think that about all reptiles. That's not the case. The truth is that some of them are actually miracles of evolution, but they've just evolved in a very different kind of a way. They're not busy like mammals are busy. They're not constantly moving in the search for food. They have a very, very slow way of going about life, and as a result actually live for a very, very extended period of time, much, much longer than a mammal of a similar size. So what would a mammal be that would be a similar size? I mean, some leopard tortoises grow to be absolutely enormous. They can even be apparently up to 70 kilograms. Okay, James Henry says scrub hare. James Henry in final control. So a scrub hare has a life expectancy of at most a couple of years. I can't think off the top of my head what the maximum life expectancy is for a scrub hare. 5, maybe? That seems like, I mean, that would be an old geriatric rabbit wandering around with a Zimmer frame telling all the scrub hares of its narrow escapes from leopards. So either way, whereas a tortoise can live for decades and decades, and those tiny little tortoises that we see and we get so excited about when we look at them and we think, oh, baby tortoise, are usually actually a year or even 2 years old. So they grow very, very, very slowly. And the evidence of that is written into the layers of the ridges and valleys of this keratin layer of the outside of their shell. Now, their story goes, I was taught as a budding guide, I was poorly taught, that you could actually age a leopard tortoise by counting the ridges, because of course during their times or periods of estivation when they're not feeding, then they don't eat very much, they don't grow very much, and as a result you've got the sort of the valley. And then you get the ridge, where it's summer. This was obviously a year of plenty over here, this one here. Summer, done lots of eating, lots of growing, lots of depositing the keratin, and slowly but surely extending its growth. You can't actually age a tortoise by counting the rings on its shell. It might have been a period of drought, where it didn't grow very much for a year, or it might have been a time of plenty where it went through growth spurts. And over here, of course, at the top point here, it's been completely rubbed smooth over the course of the years. So weathered away almost entirely. Beautiful, but of course missing a few years of this tortoise's life. Look at that. Don't we get the most amazing views? I found that the more I've done this job, the more I've seen things with fresh eyes. First of all, I need to cut my thumbnail. But secondly, you actually really start to notice details that you never notice as a regular guide. Or perhaps you do, if you're fortunate enough to have that sort of a mind. But I didn't. And I found that I've seen a fresh perspective. And this is a really, really beautiful thing that you're looking at. That nature has created an animal that has these leopard-like markings, and it's not difficult to see where the name leopard tortoise comes from. You can see those black patches there. Presumably, one would think, for camouflage. It is, we do know that it is a very successful pattern of coloration when it comes to camouflage, but we're always looking for a reason in nature. Sometimes things are just the way they are because it hasn't disadvantaged them. It's kind of how I feel about zebra stripes, but that's a different topic of conversation. So, that is the outside keratin layer, each with its individual scoot or shoot, depending upon how you pronounce it. And then underneath, solid bone, and you can actually see where the bony plates have fused together. Now what I'm very curious about is what happened here. I wonder what that was. Something nibbling on it perhaps, or somebody dropping it. There's also a distinct possibility this tortoiseshell has been in the tent for a while. Oh, Vicky was where we should have started from the very beginning when talking about chelonians. Vicky would like to know what the difference is between a tortoise and a turtle. It's a very typical thing where a lot of people from around the world will look at a tortoise, a terrapin, or a turtle and go, oh, it's a turtle. Accent not in any way pointing at any particular group of people. There is a vast difference between tortoises, turtles, and terrapins. The main difference is their habitat. Now, turtles are water-based creatures. They live in the ocean. They can come out of the ocean as they do to go and lay their eggs, and when you know that the whole story of them returning to the beach that they hatched on when they go to lay their eggs, all of that. But they're flippers. Tortoises have feet. One species of tortoise can swim. You're looking at it. At least one species that we get here can swim. Leopard tortoise can swim, but it's got feet. And if you have a look close up at the next tortoise that you see, maybe Brent will come upon one because they're all out and about now with this rain, you'll see that it's got feet very, very clearly. A terrapin is kind of somewhere in between. So a terrapin is largely aquatic, but in the freshwater, we get them here. We do get marsh terrapins here. Those are the ones that we see most often. And you'll see them in the mud or in the water around water holes, even in the puddles. And in fact, if this weather continues in the way it does, we're going to have to be very careful as we drive through puddles to drive through very slowly. Now, a terrapin kind of has a mixture between flippers and feet. It's got feet, but they're sort of webbed in the way that they're structured. And you can see its claws quite clearly. It also generally eats things like freshwater mollusks as they're otherwise known, and other things, where a tortoise is purely herbivorous. It will actually nibble on bones because, of course, it needs that calcium, particularly females, for producing eggs, but it's a herbivore. So it wanders around and very harmlessly with its sharp little bony mouth goes and nibbles away. Now, if we were to continue our description of the skeleton, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. Seb, if I hold it up, does that work? There we go.
Inside, yeah.
First, there we go. There's a spider web. There's a spider web in there, so obviously the people who did the tent cleanup on Tuesday perhaps neglected to dust all the cobwebs. But look at that. Look at the vertebra in there. You can actually see the spinal column. So comparative anatomy enthusiasts, try and say that 5 times fast. Comparative anatomy enthusiasts, there you go. Tortoise is not that different from a human being or a lion. Okay, it's a bit different. But there you go. The basic structure, the spinal column is there. And fused ribs. What else is in there? Nothing really. Creating this magnificent creature. And in this case, it was a gentleman. And we know that because of the arch of the underside. Right, let us go across to Dave in the Mara. I forgot how to speak, but he's found a giraffe and he's doing a much better job.
Nice, Jimmy.
I'm trying to think the size of a tortoise and the size of a giraffe. I don't know how many tortoises that Jamie got, or how many tortoises could make one giraffe. But well, look at the height of that tall animal we got, which stands out very clearly in the Mara, and I would say all over the world. And I guess the reason he has stopped there to look, he needs to be sure of where he's going. They got wonderful eyesight giraffes, and they never want to take any chances with predators, and I'm talking more of lions. Now, migration is very big in the Mara Triangle, and once all the wildebeests and zebras are gone, the lions which are sedentary, the lions which do not tag along with the wildebeests or the zebras, will always switch their menu to the big animals, and giraffe is one of them. So this fully grown male has to be sure, as much as he stands out and he looks tall, and even the trees, from the good job that's being done at Bungay, he has to be sure he'll take a few steps, stop, and then look. Not unusual to see them sometimes walking alone. See exactly what I said. They'll always walk, stop and look and be very sure. As maybe the darkness will be coming, he needs to know exactly for a fact where he's going. He'll be safe for the night, having scanned the whole area. That's the beauty of the Mara Triangle, the savannah, which will be dotted by trees here and there, some forests here and there, little bushes here and there. Carl Seeker was talking about the big five earlier, and you are asking, do we get the small five in the Mara? I would say yes and no. Yes, because the small five, let's list them. We have the Rhino Dung Beetle, that's one, and I'm sure you know all the small five have the names of the big five in them. We have a lot of dung beetles here, and when you look at them, they got like two horns just to resemble a rhino. And then we got the ant-eater lion. Is kind of an insect that you'll get making conical nest on the ground. Ant-eater lion. Ant-eater lion, that's number 2. Number 3, we got particular weavers that we call the white-browed sparrow weavers, or the buffalo weavers. So those are 3. And then number 4, we got leopard tortoise. We got the leopard tortoise. That makes the list for the number 5, and the remaining of the big five, of this big 5 or the small 5 now, will be the elephant shrew. So when I said yes, we have those 4. No, because we do not have the elephant shrew in the Mara. You'll need to go to an area called Malindi to the east of Kenya towards the coast, and there's a forest there called Arabuko, Sokoke Forest, and they have lots of elephant shrews there. So we've got 4 of the big 5 here in the Mara, but the 5th one you have to go to a different area. So the giraffe walks and moves and makes sure it is safe. Will also walk, or rather make tracks in a car and move on. I put my nice blazer or jacket on because it's a bit chilly now, and Bungay is telling me he has 2. I was thinking it's only me who is cold. Bungay, who is much younger than me, he has got 2 fleeces on. Bungay is teasing me that my jacket looks like a leopard. Laura, that's a very interesting question, because the mating or the rutting season for the wildebeest, as you're asking, because they delayed going back, will they also delay, or will they bring down their calves here in the Mara when February comes, if they will not have traveled down to Serengeti? I would say yes, they would, because what would happen is, a gestation period, once it's time to bring them down, it will not matter where they are. And we have noticed once in a while, if they're delayed, they may want to pace up on the migration just to make sure they're in Serengeti by the time they're bringing down the calves, because there's an area in Serengeti, in the eastern Serengeti and the western Ngorongoro Conservation Area of Tanzania, where they bring down the babies, and the grass there is always very short. Here in the Mara, we have the tall grass that we call the red oat grass, but the short grass that you get in Tanzania there, it has been claimed to be very rich in calcium and phosphorus, and the mother will need lots of that after they give birth, have it in their milk for, lactating their young ones. But the small pockets of the wildebeest that do not make it down in Tanzania in the month of February, and they stay here, apparently the same time around, which is either the first week or the second week of February, they'll also give birth here in Kenya. Yeah, but pretty good question there, and to be discussed, because the wildebeest came in rather late this year, and we still have a very big number of them, especially the last 1-2 weeks when we had the short trains coming. Very good. I'll try to see whether I could get different cuts of some other interesting animals, but Brent Leo Smith is trying to get a leopard.
Indeed, we are trying to find spotty cats, and I was correct. I did hear elephants blustering or trumpeting in the distance. There we go, you can just make them out. It looks like they're next to Mumba Road. So I'm going to have a quick look at Treehouse Dam, and if there's no sign of a leopard in that area, I think I'm going to meander towards Mumba Road, catch up with those ellies. Well, it seems like for now it's a little bit drier than it was 10 minutes or so ago. Still the odd spot of rain, but it is not heaving down anymore. Maybe it is now time for Hosana and Tingana, Tundi and Co. to come out on the prowl. Paula is wondering, will the rain help bring back some of the smaller creatures like chameleons? Most definitely. They've been estivating a lot. The tortoises, terrapins, chameleons, bushveld rain frogs, banded rubber frogs, dwarf puddle frogs, bubbling cassinas, all sorts of wonderful little critters should come out after the rain. Might take a day or two for some of the insects to really sort of explode out, but yes, it should definitely make a big difference to a lot of the smaller creatures. Now, this is by no means, we definitely need more rain, put it that way. As I said, well, I'm not sure of the exact figures for Juma, but where my folks are, my dad's got an electronic weather station that keeps everything, and so the average rainfall for that area, and we're in the same sort of low-fold area, is about 350 mils, and they have had 168 mils since the 1st of January last year, so about half of the annual rainfall so far. But you never know, we could get the other 150 in very quick time before December's even in, to get up to sort of 350 mils, which is the average rainfall for this part of the world. It's quite amazing. So we came from, or we were on leave, we were down in northern Zululand, right near the Mozambique border, and it was emerald green. They'd had good rain already there. Oh, oof, they're all so jumpy in this weather, everything's running. Very jumpy. Can you get them, Craig? Say when? About there. Yes, about there. They don't like this weather because it definitely affects their hearing. Here we go. We've got a Birchall's or plain zebra with a couple of oxpeckers on. It looks like red-billed oxpeckers. Always look carefully on zebra. Often there might be a yellow bill. I've seen the yellow-billed oxpeckers on zebras quite frequently in this area. Zebras and buffalo. I can only see one zebra and some very damp-looking impala. And this is the time of the year where we do start seeing more zebra in this area. As the rains come, they move off the dry plains. There we go. Carol 6 is wondering what happens if we don't get the follow-up rain. Well, then we just have another dry year, Carol 6. It is not the end of the world. We go through wet and dry cycles constantly. So we are in a dry cycle at the moment. And drought is not the great death trap that everyone thinks it is. Obviously, if you're a farmer, you will disagree. But in the wild, these animals are evolved to deal with times of extreme wet, extreme dry. And what happens with droughts is actually they can be quite... What are you staring at, boys? It's two impala. I don't know if they're just staring, or if they're staring at something. Let's have a quick look. No, they're running away now. Okay. So as I was saying, one of the positives of drought is that it removes all the weak genes or the weak genetics from the gene pool, and only the strongest survive. That means at the end of a drought, when it breaks, oh, baby impala, the ones that survive have got the strongest possible genetics and the best possible chance of survival coming forward. So the next drought that comes can have some quite drought-resistant animals. There we go. Hello, little one. Well, we drove in today, saw quite a few impala lambs. Following Mom, keeping close. Getting a bit of bath after the rain. They are all legs, little impalas. Now there's some nonsense stories that are spoken about impala in particular, about female impala being able to hold their pregnancies in terms of the rain, which is complete and utter twaddle. They can't. It is biologically impossible. It is an old wives' tale. So if you ever hear anyone telling you that, you should whack them on the head, preferably with a large and very heavy bird book. Something that will cause a bit of damage, maybe rattle around their skull for believing old wives' tales. Ooh, I don't think you guys are going to be able to hear it, but I can just hear some ground hornbills calling as well. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. And you can hear quite a few frogs, I'm sure. You have bushveld rain frogs, mostly. I can hear some dwarf paddle frogs as well. Okay, little one, watch out for Hosanna. We're going to keep looking for him, and if no luck, we're going to head towards those ellies. In the meantime, let's send you back to Jamie, who's still talking about Chileans.
Chelonians indeed, although I've got a funny, sneaky suspicion they're no longer known as Chelonians. But that's just looking at things in a different perspective. Do you have any idea how uncomfortable that was? Or indeed, how stinky that shell is? Seb thinks I might get an eye infection. We'll find out. Oh, so appalling. Right. We're talking about Chelonians, or whatever they're called now. So we're talking about tortoises. Let's go with that. Now, we haven't finished talking about how you tell the difference between male and female, but we'll get into that in a moment. First of all, I just want to point out that we see two different species of tortoise here on Djuma. Now, most of our regular viewers know this, but remember that we do get a lot of new viewers each and every single safari, and that might be a mystery to them as to what the differences are. So this is a Speaks hinge tortoise. The difference or like a bit bigger than this, but not much, where a leopard tortoise can actually be larger than a watermelon. And we are back, and we beg your forgiveness for all the gremlins that are attacking us. To be it's the oldest scrub hair ever, just ran past the tent. It's actually, no, it's gone. Zimmer framing its way out into the wilds of Africa. Right, so I can't get rid of that image in my head now. We're talking about tortoises. I was going to say that we have just survived a serious storm, and the fact that we're still going at all is quite amazing. Right, Speaks flattened carapace, that's the name that we give to the top, which leads us neatly into the discussion about males and females. So you're not looking at the carapace in that particular case. We're going to look at the plastron, which is down here. Now immediately we can tell that this is, I can't actually tell what this is, a young female, I think. Quite a, actually there's a bit of a curve, quite a flat plastron, but it's much clearer if I look at the leopard tortoises. Here we go. This is a female, quite clearly. Now if I turn it at an angle, you can see and then, if we compare it to the male over here, you can actually see he's got a nice, neat curve to the plastron. Why? Well, because at some point in his life, the male is hoping to find himself a lady friend, and when he does, obviously, he has to go through the sort of standard mechanics of producing another animal, which involves... Okay, this was a little bit of a tiny female, but it's sort of, you get the idea, sort of involves mounting said female. Remember how I said that typically females are larger than the males? Now imagine if this particular little female, who's unfortunately a baby, so she's didn't make it to the egg-laying stage, imagine if she were triple the size. The poor male, if his plastron was flat, he would just go like this, and he would never manage what he set out or what he intended to do. Hilarious watching tortoises mate. I look forward to it every single rainy season. That sounds very odd, but it is really funny to watch, particularly because the males make the most hysterical sound. They get very excited about it. Let's move on though and talk about other things. I have the microscope all prepped and ready. Focus to envy that of James Henry's camera work, I hear. There we go. So underneath the microscope is a tortoise shell. And if we have a look at a close-up, there we go, we've got the ridges and the colors of the leopard tortoise shell. So have a look at the ridges, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it forward. Quite bright actually, this light. Slide it forward and do some shuffling of the focus. Whoops, we went the wrong way. There we go. That's the smoothed out part that I pointed out. How pretty is that? And you can really see that it's a substance very similar to my fingernail, if I put my fingernail next to it, which is of course exactly what it is. And there you go. That's what a leopard tortoise shell looks like under the microscope. I can't actually think of anything else to tell you about that, really. We've covered the ridges. We've covered the material that it's made of. I suppose I could flip it around. Oh, we're about to blow away. Imagine if the whole tent just lifted up and we disappeared off to Oz or something like that.
Where's the tent?
With the tent, yeah. No, the whole tent's got to go with us and land on the Wicked Witch of the West or something like that. Lou wants to know if we can live stream it. If you can manage to keep the signal going as we zoom out, making some scary noises. Good thing we're tied down with really stable guy ropes. I know, because I put them up myself. Here we go. Isn't that beautiful? That's our lighting system, everyone. That's your behind the scenes glimpse of the roof going like this. It is actually quite worrying. Anyway, I'm happy that the rain has come. What else should we talk about tortoises? Brilliant. Paula, you have saved me from trying to figure out where I was going to go next with all of that. Paula would like to know, if a tortoise is flipped over onto its back, could it die? Well, I mean, obviously these lot have already shuffled off this mortal coil, so we don't have to worry about them being on their backs, but yes, it is possible for a tortoise to die. Basically, it flips up and it waves its little leggies, and sometimes if it's really lucky, it'll get enough momentum to sort of rock itself up onto all four legs again, but most of the time they just go like this, and they could potentially die. Typically what happens is they eat them, hyenas will eat them, lions will eat them. We've seen lions eat them before, apart from that one miraculous little tortoise that lay under a lion for a while. I think it was one of the sticks many moons ago. So yes, they could potentially die. Even a mongoose or something like that will actually attack a tortoise if it's tucked up upside down. Obviously, the reason for it having a shell is so that it is largely protected. It doesn't have to run away. It's got no turn of speed, although I'm always surprised at how fast tortoises can actually shuffle about. But it doesn't. Especially, Lou's added in a comment, especially our camp tortoise Gregory, who will race towards the nearest person who might be holding a watermelon. Gregory, of course, is a lady. We didn't know that when she was named Gregory. No, we don't feed Gregory in any way, but sometimes food falls out of our hands and onto the floor because we don't feed wild animals. We absolutely don't. That would be a terrible, terrible thing because they become dependent and associate people with food. Obviously, the biggest risk is monkeys and baboons. Lou would like to know if tortoises can get fat if they eat too much. Woof! Cool. We'll be fine, Seb. What could possibly go wrong? Lou would like to know if tortoises can get fat. I suspect that they probably can, but probably in the sense that they get fat in terms of their subcutaneous fat. I actually don't know. I have no idea if tortoises can get fat. Maybe it just all goes to their legs and they've just got really big legs because their shells can't expand outward faster than they grow. You should imagine a tortoise. I don't know, somebody who can draw, please feel free to dive. Give it a go though. Right, now enough of this nonsense. Think of something else for us to talk about. While you think of that, let's go across to David so he can keep you entertained. Idiots.
Occasionally your comms break. Never comes. Well, we got two different species of animals here, and we got a topi and a zebra. Now, it's interesting if you notice carefully on your screen now, or both of these two animals look in black and white. Kenya is about 1 hour ahead of South Africa, and now we have gone into infrared because it has gone quite dark here. And the whole idea of infrared is to make sure we do not interfere or influence these animals in terms of their behavior, eating, drinking, movement, or whatever they could be doing. And we don't shine any artificial light on them. And that gives us a very big advantage of enjoying this wilderness for as many hours we are out in the bush. Now, there are a few animals that we get in South Africa and we don't get here, or some that we get here and not in South Africa. And one of them is the topi, or the topis that you see on the right. But they have the equivalent of the cousins down in South Africa that we call the sesebe. And this will be the sesebes of Kenya, and those will be the topis of South Africa. It's so quiet where we are, and the busy nocturnal animals haven't started to sign in. And I'm talking about the cicadas, crickets, tree frogs. Very good, very good. I think I was not listening carefully, and Lou in the final control can hear them, which make the night, a lot interesting. As much as maybe we may not be able to see them, the cicadas or the tree frogs or the cricket or the nightjars, for example, we hear them a lot in this beautiful wilderness. And regardless of the darkness, the zebras will still keep flicking their tails. And there's a third species there, that's a topi. Well done, Bungay. So all these animals have been brought here by a few commonalities. Number one, food. Enough to eat for everybody. But also, again, as you have always said, safety in numbers. So if anything would happen, or there should be a predator here, I'm sure one of them would easily pick up and warn the rest. Remember, we do a very interactive safari. Should you have any comments or questions, please keep talking to us on the YouTube chat, or on Twitter, you may use hashtag SafariLive. How peaceful this is. I think it's time to keep going. What do you think, Bungay? We need to move on. We have done very well with those habibos, and they have cooperated with us. They didn't, or they were not bothered by our presence. I put on my light, which will always shine on the road. I do not run over any scrub here or on any nightjar. And then, of course, once we spot something, we'll always switch off the light and go to the infrared. Very good. I was saying earlier, Mara is very big on certain big antelopes, and I think Brent have something similar in South Africa.
Well, we've got howling wind and wildly beasts, but if we look carefully, there are two tiny little wildebeests, and amongst this herd, of course, they have now moved behind Mom and behind the bush, but they might come out. Everyone's a bit nervous, well, all the animals, wildebeest included, with this incredibly strong wind that's gusting at the moment. So the rain stopped, but there is a howling gale. Where have they disappeared to? Trying to see if we can get a nice view of the little ones. Baby wildies are incredibly cute. Nice big herd of wildies. 1, 2, 3, 4. 21. Just under 30, not including the little ones. Now, we see this a lot at this time of year. The wildebeest and zebra move into this area from the basalt plains where they've been feeding during the winter months. Let's try, maybe if we move the vehicle. Little one's having a lie down there. There we go. Maybe they'll stand up. Come on. Stand up, little one. I know it's cold and windy, but you don't want to get left behind. The other little one's going to come through from the right here, Craig, following. Oh, it's right behind Mom. It's going there now. Right behind Mom. Let me just move forward. They seem to be keeping the little ones well protected behind the adults. Let's see if we can get a better view through here. Oh, this wind. Oh, it's so thick. Let's try this maybe. I say, with this wind they can be a bit jumpy. There we go, see what I mean? Off they canter. Oh, too much wind. Okay, let's try this one more time, and then Shane, we won't disturb them, we'll move on. And let's have a look. Shannon is wondering at what age will they start getting their horns. Shannon, you'll be able to see them in a couple of weeks. They're just keeping the babies behind the adults. No shame, I think they're a bit nervous. We're not going to disturb them in this wind. It's going to be a long night. If you're a wildy, maybe one last chance. Got in there, Craig. Oh, they just keep moving at the wrong time. Let me just try. There. And then one steps in the way. Here we go. well, there's a bottom and a little head popping through there. You can still see they've been born in the last couple of days, maybe even yesterday. Umbilical cords are still attached. Hopefully they'll move out into quarantine as it gets darker, and tomorrow morning we might be able to have a better view of them. But for now, shame. Let's not harass the poor wildies. As I say, they're going to have a long and stressful night if this wind continues. And everything likes a baby wildebeest: lion, leopard, cheetah, hyena particularly. So I'm going to go have a quick look for those elephants, although I fear they might have moved a bit far, and then maybe head towards the hyena den as it gets a bit darker. Well, I'm going to continue on. We're going to send you across to the largest antelope in southern and east Africa, Toro tragus oryx.
Well, Brent, I'll give you a bit of pressure. You've been away on a break for quite some time, so make sure when you're coming back you excite us with some predator, a predator that could be interested maybe to come and devour a huge antelope like this that's just looking at us, called the eland, which happens to be one of the largest antelopes, or the largest antelope we got in Africa. My guess to me it could be a male because of the huge dewlap that he got under his neck. And we have always known elands, when the wildebeest and the zebras migrate, we also get big numbers of them walking or moving together. Big, large animals, but from a standing point like where he is, he can jump a whole 4 meters high. And having spent the better part of the day eating, it's time now to chew cud. And this is one of the advantages of the ruminants. They are always able to eat and eat, then stop and then regurgitate what they have eaten and rechew it again. And other herbivores like the zebra don't have that advantage. Flicking the tail, always very important. Sometimes we have bought, they are always letting the predators know, I'm alert, don't try and come around and get me. Or should they have any flies? In this kind of coolness of low temperatures, the flies to me do not become as active as they would be when the temperatures go down massively. They tend to slow down and they attach themselves to some glass blades or some warm places on the ground of the soil, maybe until tomorrow morning. Maybe we're going to keep quiet for a few seconds and hear either some cicadas or some crickets in the background. And I bet that eland is also enjoying those very cool tones coming from those small little insects. Now I was talking earlier of what lions will be going for with the disappearance or with the absence of the wildebeest and the big herds of zebras, and this is another candidate that the lions would go for. So mainly I've seen them concentrating on buffaloes, huge buffaloes, but the challenge with the buffaloes, occasionally they normally hurt the lions with the horns when they hunt them, and sometimes buffaloes are known to turn tables and go against the lions, and it's always not a very pleasant battle to look at. But elands become as easy candidates, just like the giraffes, and as much as the elands might fight back with the horns, not as big battle or a fierce battle like the buffaloes fight back. Tamira, good question. And do all the animals' eyes glow in infrared at night? I would say a 95% yes. I'm not trying to remember any animal whose eye will not glow, including mine, Tamira. So let me say 95% yes. The other 5% I'll try and find out. But I think 95 is a strong number, or a strong percentage. All eyes should glow in the darkness using infrared because of the retina in the eyes. You can see him just chewing the cud. These elands, when they get very old, and more so the males, when you hear them walking in the darkness and you don't even hear when they thump on the ground, you can hear their knees when their cartilages or tendons get torn, and I think the bones always tend to touch each other. You can hear like a click sound. So I might switch off everything I have here, the infrared and all the lights, and if the eland would pass very close to me and my eyes are closed, I could tell 100% that's an eland, because you get that click sound from the knees. Or like metal. That's not as good as the way I'd want it to come out, but that's what you hear from the knees of these animals, and more so in the bulls. But also we have found out the dominant bulls will have it much louder than the other bulls. So you've got 5-10 bulls in an area, and this the actual main one, he got a bigger click than the rest of the bulls in a particular territory, just again to show some dominance in terms of mating rights and controlling the territory of the females. Bob, comparing toppies and elands in terms of size, I'll tell you, elands are huge, and I would guess some of them would go up to 1,000 kilograms. Toppies could be anything 150 kilograms. So the elands could be like 4 or 6 times as heavy as the toppies. Toppies are pretty small, and elands, especially the male, could go up to a range of 700 to 1,000 kilograms in weight. The only one big difference, Bob, between these two species of these two antelopes, these guys are very big jumpers. And very surprised, Bob, because in general elands are always very skittish. Anytime you'll stop and the camera operator will put it on frame, they normally take off. Maybe because of the darkness, he's being quite cooperative, but we have known toppies out here in the wilderness being very shy. And being large antelopes, it doesn't make a lot of sense to us, because when you see smaller guys or small antelopes, Bob, like the toppies or the sesebes, they'll always stick around and you'll see them just grazing and not worried either by people. But elands, to me, are the most skittish big antelopes we got around. Females of these antelopes, way back, people used to milk them, and we still have, I believe, even today in Africa, eland's milk is very nutritious. And doctors way back here, they would recommend mothers who would not be able to breastfeed their babies, if they could get a choice, especially in the villages we come from, if they could get access to eland milk, it would serve same purpose, if not better. I'm imagining those days when we didn't have any baby formulas that you could buy in the shop, like where I come from. Alright, eland, I thought you should have moved by now, and because you're not moving, I will move myself. Thank you, Bungay. Shall we, Bungay? Thank you very much. Again, my lights are on, and hopefully I'm gonna spot something else. Alright, Jamie, I know you're still hiding in the tent. I can see you. What are you looking at now?
I'm looking at a leaf, David, a leaf indeed. I am hiding in the tent, and I'm sincerely grateful that I'm in the tent, because all I can hear is the wind howling outside. And while you were away, it actually broke the tent. It actually tore one of the base strips that's is tucked into one of the poles and ripped it apart. And everything went flying. Seb and I were joking it would be very funny if it had happened while we were live, but perhaps we shouldn't say that, because it could still. The reason we're looking at this leaf is because it's a very pretty leaf, and it's a leaf that when it's mature you don't get to see as clearly just how beautiful it is. Now obviously something's been eating it. Could have been a caterpillar, could have been something else. Doesn't look like caterpillar nibblings, looks like something else. But ignore that and look at the silver sheen of those fine hairs on that leaf. That is a silver cluster leaf. Now, often we talk about it and perhaps you don't get to see exactly where the name comes from. But there you can really see, especially with the light here in the tent, as I turn it over, you can see that silver shine. Now we're going to have a look at it under the microscope in a little bit. Let me just turn it over because the hairs are even denser on the underside. Why? Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit because I've actually got a sample of a fair few leaves, and we're going to talk a little bit about why it is we're so happy that it is raining and what it means for the plant life and the animals that we see every day. There we go. I have no idea what Alara Moore said. I'm terribly sorry, but we'll come back to it. Plant fur. Alara Moore said plant fur, and I cannot think of anything more accurate to describe what it is we're seeing. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? You can really see the fine hairs, and you can actually see, especially where it's been eaten, you can see just how long those hairs actually are. Now, one of the reasons why plants like this should have or would have hairs like this is to stop them from losing water or moisture. So in other words, from desiccating. And especially on the underside of the leaf, that of course is where the vast majority of the gaseous transfer takes place. So the way in which the plant exchanges or gives off the oxygen that it does, and potentially takes in carbon dioxide as well, depending on the time of day or what the plant's doing or what it needs. Now that happens in a very moist environment, and obviously that means that those openings, the stoma, around the base of it or around the underside of the leaf, because they are more concentrated on the underside of the leaf, that means that it's a great potential for that plant to lose water. And having these fine hairs is one way of helping to prevent that. So whether it's preventing the movement of air across the surface of the stoma, which causes evaporation, or whether it's simply providing a nice trapping point for the moisture to collect rather than the plant losing it completely, basically creates quite a humid environment around the silver cluster leaf stoma, where they go through that gaseous exchange. Now, the question is, does it do anything else? I suspect that it also might potentially be a defense mechanism against being eaten. I don't know. It obviously doesn't work. We know that a lot of caterpillar species like silver cluster leaf, and obviously something else does as well. I can't for the life of me remember what it was we used to look at on the silver cluster leaves under the microscope. All right, so I keep seeing flashes of what could be Brent's, whatever Brent is looking at. I don't know. I keep seeing flashes of some strange thing underneath the microscope, so we won't spend too long talking about that. But that's just one of the ways that the plant defends itself against the temperatures. Now, in the last 2 weeks, it's been, on average, sort of around about, I would say, Seb, you've been here, 35? More? 35 to 38 degrees centigrade. Now, for those of you that work in Fahrenheit, tough. No, I can do this. Close to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it really is very, very hot. Now you can imagine what that does to the poor plants, where although they've got root systems, there's only so much moisture they can get from underneath the surface of the soil. The hotter it gets, the more evaporation, the less moisture there is for them. So every little bit counts. So these green leaves, and I've noticed there's a massive difference since I've been on leave and since I've returned to Djuma. There's a massive difference in how many trees do have their leaves, particularly silver cluster leaves. They're the sort of shining rows of silver. It's beautiful, but they've got to be able to protect themselves, because obviously they're pouring all of their nutrients and their growth into these leaves, this new life. You can imagine how incredibly fundamentally wrong it would be if they didn't have a way to protect themselves as well. Now, obviously it doesn't work completely, but for the last 3 years, it has been phenomenally dry. Before that, we actually had years of very high rainfall, and in fact had a flood in 2012, 2013. There's one point, I can't remember if it was 2013 or 14, where I got trapped somewhere. I couldn't go back to work. It was terrible. Couldn't get across the river. What can you do? Sit and drink tea. But the last 3 years have been very, very dry. So even though we've had periods of rain, it's still been much less than the average rainfall. And that's cumulative. So obviously the groundwater levels are going to drop and drop and drop and drop. The dams never quite filled up, so they obviously dried out quicker. So it's cumulative, and it's getting worse each consecutive year. Now, I don't know what this year is predicted to be. I doubt we're going to have another wonderful year of rain. I think it's going to be another dry one. Now, each and every single leaf has a different approach. The waxy sheen of the magic aguari, for example, to help to waterproof it. Right, now, not many things like to eat the leaves. Dare I mention the tannin word? Animals don't particularly like the leaves of the magic aguari, although recently I have seen quite a few elephants eating some.
Well, the ellies, when they have a choice, won't feed on the guaris, but they do when they're desperate. But they'll be loving this little bit of cool weather. However, the wind is not an elephant's favorite thing, so we're not going to try to get too close to them. And we'll just let them feed away up on the hill. Elephants in this windy weather can sort of react quite badly, or just quite quickly change from being very calm to not so calm. Like all other animals that are not predators, they don't like the wind. Well, you can see, unless you're a swallow. Well, I suppose there are predators that eat insects, sort of. There's some nice big cows in this herd. There we go, you can see something's upset them a little bit. There's some tails out. I don't know which one you're on there. Those there just looked a little bit upset about something. Could be a young bull moving in. And two of those females looked like they were about to get upset with something. It's not us, we're quite far away. Paula is wondering what leaves are the most nutritious for various wildlife. Well, Paula, it completely depends on the time of the year and what is available. But as a general rule, the most nutritious is grass, with its high sugar content. And when we have normal rainy seasons, the summer months, the rainy months, 80% of an elephant's diet will consist of grass in this area, with only about 20% trees and shrubs. And during the drier months that changes, and they'll feed 80% of trees, shrubs and leaves, and only 20% of dry grass. However, in an ecosystem like the Mara, where David is, you'd probably find closer to 80% all year round of what the elephants are feeding on is grass. Let's hear some more thunder in the distance. I think as it gets darker, we're going to leave these ellies be. These are the same elephants we saw from, oh, look at a little one playing with his trunk, from a great distance across the other side of the valley. And we managed to catch up with them. I think it is about that time of the evening where the hyenas might be getting a bit active. So I think we might head in that general direction to see if there's any activity at the hyena den. I've got to be always very careful with ellies and strong winds. And you can actually see even those big marula trees that are blowing in the wind. You can probably hear it. Very strong winds today. In the meantime, let's go across to the Mara, to Gigi, David Gitu, who has got another member of the Big Five.
Well done, Brent, with some ellies, and I'm happy to hear your destination now is to the hyena den. Now, this lone buffalo here is a male, and we just found him grazing on his own entirely, which is not unusual to see male buffaloes living on their own, and especially when they get a bit tired or a bit old. Of all the species of the animals I know in Africa, it's in the buffalo kingdom or in the buffalo species of buffaloes where once the males start getting tired, Either the females will show them the door, or the buffaloes will choose to be away, and the younger buffaloes will remain in the herd. We have always talked of the Big Five and how they coined, the phrase the Big Five, being the most dangerous animals, or the animals that were hunted most way back during the hunting days. But for me, in my village, if I have a choice of all the animals in Africa and the animals I do not want to deal on or with, on one-to-one, it's the buffalo I don't want to deal with. They're very unpredictable, and especially the males. They get very grumpy, and they have always known, even today in my villages that I come from, you might see them at one point, then they'll disappear, then they might go around and then still come for you. We've got many times where the ladies will go get or fetch some wood fuel, and they'll always say they have to go in groups, or they have to go clapping, or they have to collect some small little pebbles or stones or boulders and throw in a little thicket they cannot see very well, or just shout. So should there be a buffalo, it will move away. If you get one that will be lay in a small little hole that's mud wallowing or something, they tend to blend in very well, and that's what has hurt many people in Africa, because they just look like the part of the hole or part of a bush, and when you get close to them, they can easily hurt you. My apologies there, but there was something on the other side of that buffalo, and it just moved and stopped. You see the magic of infrared and all the small insects, be they moths that are just flying on the screen there. I just hear him getting the grass out, just cutting the grass. See the wrinkles on his neck, which definitely indicate he's an old male. Proud Cat Mama, always a pleasure to hear your name. And I would say for me, the cats take very big advantage of the rains. And when it's raining, they know the prey and most of the herbivores do not connect very well, and their bearings don't work very well. So Proud Cat Mama would say when it rains, it's a lot easier for the predators to hunt. I've seen lions stalking, and out of 10 times I've seen lions stalking in the rain, 8 times they have always gotten their prey. So I would say in the darkness, it's very good, because lions especially like using darkness, to take cover and hunt. And also in the rain, when there's a lot of confusion on all the prey, it's a big advantage for the predators. And hyenas also, Proud Cat Mama would behave the same. All right, back on the road, back with my spotlight. Keep sporting. And you can see all this area. There's no other buffalo but from what we saw there. Jude, we have seen sometimes when buffaloes meet a pride of lions, if they cannot face the fully grown lions, they tend to go and trample on the cubs and kill them. And that's always an indication to frustrate the lions. That has happened many times. And when lions feel cornered, they'll do anything they can to make sure the buffaloes do not do that. Or if they were meant to hunt the buffaloes, the lions will stop doing that and just keep a very thick or very strong wall between them and their cubs. The lions become very defensive, especially when they got young cubs with them, because the cubs just tend to stop, and the buffaloes have just been known to just walk across and just kill them. I'd be happy if this evening I would see a scrub hare or a nightjar on the road. Not a chameleon. The day I'll see a chameleon here in the Mara Triangle would be a very big day for me. Not that we don't have the chameleons, but I don't think we have the right habitat, especially very close to the road. Very good. I keep now looking for the nocturnal animals, And I think Jamie Patterson is not leaving that tent soon.
I am not leaving the tent, and in fact, you'd have to drag me outside. Seb's being very brave out there in the elements. It's not raining anymore, but it is a great deal chillier than it has been. And I have many regrets in my life, but at the moment, the most pressing is the fact that I actually wore shorts. I really sincerely regret that. Now, the wonderful thing about these spectacular rainy afternoons, we are very grateful for them, is not only is it great hunting weather for cats, if we can find them, but it gives us an opportunity to reminisce on some of the spectacular moments. Now, some of them I haven't seen, but you have. Some of them you perhaps have not seen. But let's have a look at something that I definitely have not seen, and I'm very excited to see it.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mara Triangle in Kenya, where we are currently with a very boisterous bunch of zebra stallions, a little bachelor herd of boys that are biting and kicking and body checking each other constantly in shows of dominance, in sporting contests to see who is the stronger, honing skills, which will be very important when it comes to defending one's ladies once becoming of age. But being a group of young males, they do spend time together and, well, they need to hone their skills somehow. You can't step into the ring with a big dominant male without at least having a few sparring sessions. And, well, there we go. A little bit of boisterous happening here. They bite viciously with their teeth and they're able to kick. Connie, you want to know if the males after these battles will end up with a harem? Well, essentially, they need to be able to prove themselves, and when they move into an area, see, they all got their ears up and are kind of looking forward. There's a few groups of zebra off to the left that have potentially got some youngsters and some females in them. A stallion will have a number of sort of mares in his harem, and he'll also have some young females that are his. And basically, one of these males might approach him and give him a little bit of a runaround and prove to him that he's a big enough and strong enough stallion to be able to look after his daughter. He doesn't give her away easily. He only gives her away to a stallion who can prove his worth. So by going through all these antics, they're basically testing themselves. They're working on the strength and ability of themselves to compete, and obviously then also to be able to accumulate a number of stallion or fillies or females from dominant males. Obviously, the dominant males don't want to keep their young daughters in their harem because they're not going to breed with them, but they want them to go off to a strong sort of male, very similar to sort of human society. I suppose many dads out there wouldn't mind wrestling the son-in-law to be to prove whether he is capable of looking after his daughter. It's kind of one of those things you would like at least some strength to be shown. And these are very important lessons for zebra to be turning around. MD, you want to know if they kill each other accidentally? Well, there's no such thing as accidental, I suppose. These big male zebras will definitely deal serious blows to each other. They can kick each other quite heavily in the head. And it could lead to death. I've never seen a male zebra knock down another male zebra, an adult anyway, but they do kill young males. They can kill them. Stallions don't take too nicely to youngsters hanging around. Invariably, they beat them up to get them away from the herd, but I've seen a male physically chase down and kill a young male. Ladybug, you were getting dizzy. Can you imagine these guys? So please feel free, folks, to drop your questions and comments down below. The zebras on the left are more interested in eating.
Well done, Steve. That was spectacular. One might even say it was dazzling. It's only funny if you know what the collective noun for zebra is. So, fun sighting, right? Zebra are lovely creatures, beautiful, really friendly, except that, oh, why is this sticky? Ew. That's disgusting.
What's with the long face?
Well, yeah, why the long face? Well, your face would be long too if you were deceased and sticky. That is really disgusting. I'm so glad. I must remember not to touch my face until I've washed my hands, because I really don't know what that is. Zebra are not nice creatures at times to each other. So that was a playful-ish learning experience between two zebra stallions, or actually several zebra stallions, as they practice the skills that they will one day need in order to be able to compete for a harem, or the beginnings of a harem. Now, zebra have these spectacularly sharp incisors that actually serve as a very powerful, potent weapon when it comes to their battles with each other and with other predators as well. Now, they don't look very sharp, and of course the zebra's missing its bottom jaw, and to be honest, oh no, it's not, it's there, I'm too scared to touch it. Now, those teeth don't look very sharp, but when you combine it, okay, I'm going to get the bottom jaw. With the bottom jaw, those of you with horses, if you have ever been bitten, oh, this one's sticky too. Have you ever been, I wonder, you know what it is? This is going to make everyone's day. It's not honey, is it? Or is it just really badly... No, it's not. I thought maybe the Mapani bees had made themselves at home in this hollow too. Because they do like our giraffe skull. So I thought perhaps it might be. Anyway, it's kind of gross. Moving on. So if you combine the two jaws, you can actually see just how unpleasant a zebra's bite can be. And I was saying that those of you who have horses will know what a horse bite feels like. Now, you can take that as even worse, because I have been bitten by both a horse and a zebra in my life, and I can tell you that the zebra was a far more excruciating experience. Snuck up behind me and grabbed me by the shoulder. I was lucky. I managed to squirm out of it before it managed to really take a chunk out of my shoulder. A long story. Not a very nice zebra. They can do serious damage to each other. Now, Brent had our group of guides with him on a drive on Torchwood not so long ago, and he got to witness a fight between two stallions, a very serious fight. And the abdomen of one of the stallions had actually been ripped open almost entirely. And you can even get to the point where you've got quite a disorganized zebra. In other words, the stomach lining has been torn open to the point that the organs come out. So they can actually be extraordinarily savage in the fights that they have. They can kick each other, and they bite each other, and they do serious damage. But it's not just the stallions. The mares will do it as well. Now, I've seen it in the past. They're horrible to foals. If a foal makes a mistake and goes to the wrong female, she turns around and stamps it with her hooves, or occasionally turns around and bites it. And you'll often see squabbles within the females, and particularly, I wonder if it's connected to whatever those black things are in there. You see them there, see? I'm slightly disturbed. Those look like eggs, maybe. This tent could use a thorough spring clean. Can't really do much about the sticky skull, though. So the females, when a male acquires a new mare, are particularly unfriendly towards her, and they often try and chase her away, and the stallion keeps herding her back, and the mares turn around and fight her. And if any of the mares get ideas about their station, in other words, they try and walk ahead of a more dominant female, they'll actually get turned around and kicked. So zebra, I mean, that was a learning experience for those stallions. There was nothing terribly serious about it, but I have seen them switch very quickly. I've seen those sparring sessions turn ugly fast. And what you'll see with zebra, and that you didn't see in that clip with Steve, but that I've seen in the past, when they fight, you'll often see them lie down on their bellies when it gets really, really serious. And you can understand why, because I've seen so many abdominal injuries along zebras' abdomens. I can't formulate a sentence, you know what I'm trying to say. That I can understand why it would be that zebra would actually lie down in a defensive posture to stop its opponent from reaching around and actually biting at those sensitive areas around the belly where the skin is at its thinnest. Still tough skin, which just goes to show how powerful the bite is of a zebra. They're beautiful animals, but they are not very nice to each other. It's all part of their instinct and the way in which they relate to each other. Okay, Right, that was really lovely. I really enjoyed playing with that at the top of that zebra skull. I can't imagine what was on there. There is an animal that would not be bothered by it at all, and in fact would revel in a change of texture or taste attached to its bone. Let's go across to the spotted hyenas.
Well, we've made our way to the den, and it is active. Here we've got one of Pretty's cubs out chewing, and then there's Corky and Co up at the entrance to the den. And we could hear some elephants, probably the same ones we saw a bit earlier, trumpeting away at something in the darkness beyond us. And you can see we are in infrared light, so of course it enables us to observe all their behavior without interfering. Oh, that was a bit of a stumble there, Corky. It's wonderful to have these guys permanently back. Oh, where are you off to? Trouble? Disappeared round the back of the den. And I'm not 100% sure who the second female is who's here. It could be Pretty. I haven't been able to have a good look. There she is. Oh, listen. Trish, thank you very much. Trish says it is Pretty. Oh, here come the Troubles. They're running towards us here, right next. There we go. Hello, Trouble 1. Where's Trouble 2 gone? Bit of a greeting ceremony might start happening. The little ones are just charging about in the distance, around and around the termite mound. Lauren says, hyena are fast becoming my favourite to look at out here. Well, it looks like we're all going. Oh, there's another one. And off they go around the other side. I might have to move to catch up. No updates apart from some elephant off Mamba Road. There we go. They're all talking on the other side. So I'm just updating. There's the only other game drive I've heard all afternoon. Anthem. I'm just going to try and find my way to the other side of the termite mound. It's always fun reversing with the covers down. Reverse by touch. I'm only kidding, of course. Have a look first. Just going to try finding a way to the other side of the den without driving too close to it. Here we go. This looks acceptable. This is old Tingana's termite mound. I've got many a photograph of him sitting on top of this very termite mound. This is his favorite route. This big animal path that's in front of us here is his favorite route from Treehouse Dam. Oh, there are the Troubles. Oh, big games going on this side of the termite mound. Watch, as we get there, they'll all go to the other side of the termite mound, Murphy's Law. Oh, we're being charged. Whoa. We've got a mob just sort of charged up to us. Hello, all you nonsenses. We're getting all brave now, it's getting dark. Coming to say hello. Do not even you think about stealing my rubber caps on my tires. Hey! What are you doing? Don't steal my rubber caps. Yes, I'm watching you. Yes, naughties. You're very cute, but you're still naughty. Oof, that one's still there? No, we're going to charge off. No, you haven't finished giving us a good sniff yet. Oh, okay, now I can move. So I was actually trying to get into a better spot, and they just stormed down the hill at us. Okay, let me just get us into a good position here. Oh, we're getting charged again. I have to stop the car. It's not letting me get into the spot I want to get into. They come running up to us. Okay, there. Let's try that. Shannon would like to know why are their hindquarters lower than their shoulders. Well, quite a few animals you'll see that. It's an adaptation for lots of different reasons. One is stamina, another is strength. Okay, we are now being surrounded. We've got literally hyenas on all sides. We've got pretties two to the left. And Corky's here in front of us. And Corky and Pretty right in front of the vehicle as well. Oh, they're going to call right next to us. Their tails up. Just listen to these incredible sounds. That's a bit eerie, isn't it, when they look at you over the bonnet? Oof! The little rocket's right next to me now. Hello. Look how close. I can't, I'm gonna have to move. Oh, I have to move slowly, but it's too close actually. Off it goes. Coming to investigate. Are absolutely fascinating creatures. Oh, back again, Craig. I'm moving out of the way. Oh, he's too close. There he goes. They seem to be very much enjoying this cool weather after a very hot day during the day today. So they've probably been inactive for the majority of the day, and last night was quite hot as well. So these little ones think this cool weather is the best. It's weather for chasing each other around. Minamu is wondering when hyena cubs will start whooping. Oh, off we go! Oh, behind the cover. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to move again. Minamu, probably around as they get closer to a year old. Oh, I'm trying to just carefully. It's quite difficult. How's that, Craig? We've got the little ones running over there. I'm not 100% sure, Minamu, to be honest, but if I had to random a guess, Jamie might know exactly, but I'd say probably between 6 months and 9 months old, they might start whooping. They'll make whole various other sort of sounds, almost chittering and whatnot. Oh dear, I think the moms are about to head out on the scavenge. The little ones are still playing. They might get told to go home now. There's a big greeting ceremony going on here. How's that, Craig? Okay, so there's quite a big greeting and talking ceremony going on. I saw some anal pasting happening a bit earlier. But it does look like these two are getting ready to head out for the evening. Oh. And the three troubles are just out of our view at the moment. I can hear them running behind the car. Now, that wildebeest herd with those little babies we saw earlier is not far from here at all, and that is definitely something that these hyenas might target. Charge, charge, charge! Non-stop charging. Others are just off the front here. Yeah. Oh, Ooh. Okay. Just keep. Oh, listen to that. Like, big greeting ceremony. Now, I'm gonna try get one last view, but I think they're gonna head off to go out hunting, and the cubs are probably gonna go. Now I need some light to escape from here. The adults have moved off in that direction towards the southwest, and the cubs scurried back to the den. Okay, it sounds like we're having some technical difficulties, so you're stuck with Craig and I while we remove ourselves from the new hyena den. Oof! Here comes, I think that second storm might be on the way. The rain's getting a bit harder. And there's lightning on the way. As I said, we're right between these two big storms, and it seems like the second one is going to hit us shortly. But in the meantime, let's send you all the way back to the north in the Mara with Lion.
Well, apologies about the gremlins there. These are things that will happen. But see how close these lions walking. Just next to the car. I can just see a puppet on the pose on the ground there. And she's just moving, and I don't know where she has gone. And for those who have joined us before, I want to move forward a little bit because I think all of them are coming now. Look at this. How beautiful is this? For those who are with me or of those who are joining me now, this is the Olololo Pride. They're always about 16 while together. And just like the hyenas that are with Brent and the cubs getting so playful, many predators will always be more active when the temperatures have gone down. And two of these were eating a baby zebra 2-3 hours ago. And they're doing a lot of roaring, a lot of calling. And all these are females and sub-adults laying on the ground there. Sometimes I've always thought staying on the substrate there, it gives them a bit of warmth. The sun has been heating the road for the better part of the day and takes quite a long time for the road to cool off. So having the bellies down there, it will help keep the body warmth up. And quite a strategic position they are staying in. And if you look in the background, I think I can see 3 more coming to the left. Bungay, do you think so? I can see in my monitor 3 more females coming to join.